Welcome to the deep dive. We got some really fascinating material sent in by one of you, focusing on the ideas in The Courage to be Disliked.
It's framed as that dialogue about Adlerian psychology.
Exactly. So today we're going to try and unpack some of the core ideas about happiness presented there. It's kind of a shortcut to some potentially big insights.
Yeah, our mission, if you like, is to pull out those key concepts from Adler's work, using that conversation between the philosopher and the young man as our guide. It really does offer some, well, surprisingly direct answers to that huge question. How can we actually be happy?
And the format itself, that dialogue, it's really effective, isn't it? It sort of mirrors how we all grapple with new stuff, asking questions, pushing back a bit, and then maybe, hopefully, understanding.
It really does. You feel like you're right there as the young man works through it.
And it's interesting that Adler's ideas, even though they come from psychology, not ancient philosophy, they felt really ahead of their time.
Oh, absolutely. Groundbreaking, really. They offered a completely different way of looking at things, and honestly, they still feel pretty radical today.
Okay, so let's get into it. The book kicks off with the young man talking about his friend, right? The one who's basically become a shut-in.
Yeah, and the young man's first instinct is to figure out why. Was it bullying? Problems with his parents? Was he, coddled too much?
That classic search for a cause in the past, we all do it.
We do. He's looking at it through the lens of etiology, cause and effect, assuming the past caused the present situation.
But that's the first big challenge from Adlerian psychology.
Exactly. The philosopher argues that focusing only on past causes, on etiology, kind of leads to determinism. It suggests your past locks you in, that your present and future are basically already decided.
Which is a pretty bleak outlook.
It can be. So Adler flips it. Instead of etiology, he focuses on teleology.
Teleology.
Study a purpose. Right. It asks, what's the goal, instead of what's the cause. It's a fundamental shift in perspective. Our actions are driven by our current goals, maybe unconscious ones, not just by past events.
Okay, explain that a bit more. The cold analogy was good.
Yeah, think about catching a cold. Etiology asks, what virus caused this? Teleology, from this Adlerian viewpoint, might ask, what purpose does being sick serve right now? Maybe gives you a reason to stay home from work, something you didn't want to do anyway.
I see. So applying that to the friend.
The philosopher suggests that even if the friend believes his past trauma is why he can't go out, that belief itself might be serving his current goal of staying inside.
Wow. So the anxiety, the fear, they become tools, reasons manufactured to achieve the goal of isolation.
That's the provocative idea. The feeling is almost created, or at least amplified, to fit the purpose. It's less about why me, and more about what am I trying to achieve with this feeling or behavior right now.
So a key takeaway for you listening might be shifting that question from why to what for.
Precisely. It's not saying the past is irrelevant, but that our interpretation and our present goals are more powerful drivers of what we do now.
Okay, let's take the anger example. The young man gets coffee spilled on his jacket, and he blows up.
Right. His immediate take is, coffee spilled up, I got angry, I shouted. Pure cause and effect. Anger is just this automatic reaction.
But the philosopher reframes it.
Completely. He suggests the young man chose anger so that he could shout. The anger wasn't the inevitable result. It was the means to achieve the goal of making the waiter submit, pay attention, apologize.
Like a tool again?
Exactly. And that phone call example illustrates it perfectly.
Oh yeah, the mother yelling at her daughter, 1 second.
And then instantly switching to this polite, calm voice for the teacher on the phone.
It shows you can turn anger on and off, right? It's not this uncontrollable force.
Mm-hmm. It demonstrates that we often deploy emotions strategically to achieve different goals in different situations. The goal with the daughter was maybe control or correction. The goal with the teacher was politeness or maintaining an image.
So Adler isn't saying feelings aren't real, or we don't experience anger or sadness.
Not at all. The feelings are real. But the argument is, we're not just puppets controlled by these emotions. We have more agency in how we use them, consciously or unconsciously, than we often admit.
Okay. That leads into the next bit, where the young man is envious of his friend, Y, the outgoing one. He wishes he could be like him.
And this brings up the Adlerian concept of lifestyle, which isn't quite what it sounds like in everyday language.
Right. It's not about possessions or routines.
No, it's deeper. It's your fundamental orientation towards life, your way of seeing the world, other people, yourself. And crucially, Adler says it's something you choose. It's not a fixed personality you're born with.
Like choosing a map or a lens through which you see everything?
That's a good way to put it. It's the sum total of your tendencies and beliefs about how life works and how you fit into it.
But the young man pushes back hard on this. He's like, I didn't choose to be unhappy or pessimistic. I think a lot of us would feel that way.
Of course.
Yeah.
It feels counterintuitive. But the philosopher clarifies. You don't choose your birth circumstances, the raw materials you're given, your genetics, your early environment, whatever.
Okay.
But you do choose what you do with those materials now. Your lifestyle is built on ongoing choices, moment by moment. And maybe, the philosopher suggests, the young man is continuously choosing not to change, perhaps because change is scary. He lacks the courage to be happy.
That example of the aspiring writer is so relatable.
The one who says, if only I wasn't so busy with my job, then I could finally write my novel.
Yeah, it's the perfect excuse.
It is. The if only protects him from actually trying and possibly failing. He uses the lack of time as a reason not to make the choice to prioritize writing right now. It keeps the dream alive without the risk. So maybe ask yourself, what are your if-onlys? What choices are they helping you avoid?
Good question. Okay, let's shift to inferiority and superiority feelings. Everyone deals with these, surely.
Absolutely. Adler says feelings of inferiority aren't about objective reality, but about our subjective interpretation when we compare ourselves to others.
Like the height example, being 5'3" is a fact.
Right. But feeling inferior about it only happens when you compare yourself to taller people and decide it means something negative about your worth. It's the comparison and the meaning you attach that create the feeling.
So a healthy feeling of inferiority could just be noticing a gap between where you are and where you want to be. Like, I want to be better at this skill.
Exactly. That kind of feeling can be a great motivator for growth and learning. You're comparing yourself to your own potential or ideal self. That's productive.
But the inferiority complex is different.
Yes. That's when you take that feeling of inferiority and use it as an excuse. I can't succeed because I'm not well educated, or I can't ask her out because I'm not good looking enough. It becomes a shield against effort or risk.
And the flip side, this superiority complex, not just arrogance.
Adler saw it differently. Often, he suggested, it's a mask. Someone acts superior, boasts, maybe clings to powerful people.
Name dropping.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But it often stems from a hidden, deep-seated feeling of inferiority. It's overcompensation.
So the healthy path is striving for improvement, not competing to be better than others.
That's key. Adler stressed that human beings are equal, though not the same. We have different abilities, different looks, different circumstances, but equal inherent worth. Trying to win in interpersonal relationships just creates losers and prevents real connection. Competition belongs in sports or academics, maybe, but not in the core of our relationships.
Which ties into the next really big idea, that all our problems are, at their root, interpersonal relationship problems. That sounds sweeping.
It's a bold claim, but the logic is that our feelings of happiness, sadness, inferiority, loneliness, they almost always arise in the context of how we relate to other people. Our sense of self is largely built through interaction.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution?
The separation of tasks. This is crucial in Adlerian thought.
Right, figuring out what's your responsibility and what's someone else's. The studying example was clear.
Yeah. Whose task is it to study? Who ultimately faces the consequences, good or bad grades, learning or not learning?
The child.
The child. So studying is the child's task. Parents might want to help, might think they're helping by nagging or forcing.
It's for your own good.
Exactly. But from an Adlerian perspective, that's intruding on the child's task. And intrusion, stepping into someone else's task or letting them step into yours, is where relationship troubles often begin.
So back to the shut-in friend. Separating tasks would mean, what? Just leaving him alone?
Not necessarily abandoning him. It means recognizing that deciding to engage with the world, to seek help, to change, that's his task. Your task might be to offer support if he asks, to be a friend, to let him know you're there, but not to force, cajole, or try to fix him. Respecting his ownership of his life.
But that feels hard, especially with family or partners. You care. You want to help.
Of course. And the philosopher addresses this. He'd say, believing in someone, loving them, supporting them, that can be your task. But how they respond, what choices they make, that's their task. You control your belief and support, not their actions.
So avoid becoming like a well-meaning stalker, constantly checking in, trying to manage their life.
Kind of, yeah. It's about trusting them to handle their own tasks, even if you disagree with how they're doing it. Having faith without needing to control the outcome.
The Gordian knot story fits here too.
Alexander didn't try to untangle the impossible, not the traditional way. He just cut it. A new approach.
Yeah.
Separating tasks can be like that, a clean cut through a tangled interpersonal mess.
But people will say, I'm only meddling because I care.
And the intention might be good. But Adler would argue it's still interference, still crossing a boundary. Real freedom, he suggests, involves choosing your path without needing others' approval or fearing their disapproval and letting others do the same.
Okay, so if we separate tasks, what's the goal of relationships then?
Community feeling. That's the ultimate aim.
Sense of belonging.
Belonging, connection, and contribution. Feeling like you're part of something bigger than just yourself. And Adler's idea of community is vast. It's not just your family or town. It includes all humanity, past, present, future, even animals, plants, the universe.
Wow, okay. That's big. An ideal, maybe?
Definitely an ideal to strive for. It involves a shift from being self-centered, focused on me, to having what he called social interest, a genuine concern for others.
So constantly worrying, what do they think of me, is actually self-centered.
Paradoxically, yes. You're still putting yourself at the center of your world map. Community feeling is realizing you're part of the map, not the center point. Like looking at a globe, every point is equally part of the whole.
And how do you build this feeling? There were 3 parts.
Right. Self-acceptance, confidence in others, and contribution to others.
Okay, break those down.
Self-acceptance is accepting yourself as you are right now, imperfections and all. Not, if only I were better, but this is me and that's okay. Confidence in others means having a basic, unconditional trust in people believing in their potential, not constantly suspecting them.
Unconditional trust. That sounds difficult.
It can be. It doesn't mean being naive, but starting from a place of trust rather than suspicion. And then contribution to others is about actively doing things that help or support your fellow humans, your comrades, seeing others as partners, not rivals.
But isn't contributing to others still kind of for yourself? The book mentions feeling useful.
It does, and that's not seen as a contradiction. When you feel I am of use to someone, I am contributing, it fosters a profound sense of your own worth and belonging. That feeling changes everything. So yes, you contribute, and that contribution loops back to enhance your own sense of happiness and connection.
Okay, near the end, they discuss kids who act out for attention, that pursuit of easy superiority.
Yeah, trying to be special without putting in the real work of contributing or improving. Even getting told off is a form of attention, making them feel noticed.
And the antidote to that is the courage to be normal.
Exactly. Letting go of the need to be special, exceptional, better than everyone else. Just accepting your ordinary self.
Which sounds a bit boring. The young man certainly thought so. Like, isn't that just settling for a pointless life?
But the philosopher pushes back. Being normal doesn't mean being lazy or aimless. It means living earnestly right now. It's the difference between climbing a mountain versus dancing.
Explain that analogy.
Mountain climbing, the kinetic life, is all about reaching the summit, that distant goal. The journey is just a means to an end. If you don't reach the top, it feels like failure.
Ugh.
Dancing, the energial life, finds meaning and fulfillment in the movement itself, in every moment of the dance. It's not about arriving somewhere, it's about the process, the here and now. Life, Adler suggests, should be lived more like a dance. Series of present moments, lived fully.
So life doesn't have some grand, preordained meaning.
Not according to this view. Meaning isn't something you find out there. It's something you assign to life through your actions, your contributions, your way of dancing in the present moment.
And choosing this freedom, not needing approval, not living other people's tasks, it might feel scary, like you're lost at sea.
It can, initially. But that community feeling, that sense of connection and contribution, acts like a guiding star, giving you direction even without a fixed destination.
The ending notes how one of the authors, Koga, felt his life was changed by encountering these ideas.
Yeah, that personal testimony is powerful. It highlights that while some of this might sound simple, or maybe idealistic, really taking it on board, having the courage to choose differently, to separate tasks, to contribute, can genuinely transform how you experience life.
It really boils down to taking responsibility for your own happiness, doesn't it?
In a big way. Rejecting victimhood, embracing choice, valuing connection, and finding meaning right where you are.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the big takeaways from this deep dive into the courage to be disliked and Adlerian psychology. We talked about teleology focusing on purpose over past causes.
The idea that you choose your lifestyle, your basic orientation to life.
Understanding inferiority and superiority as subjective judgments, not facts.
The absolute importance of separating tasks, knowing what's yours to handle and what's someone else's.
Building community feeling through self-acceptance, trusting others, and contributing.
And finally, having the courage to be normal, finding meaning, not in being special, but in living fully in the present, like a dance.
These are definitely ideas worth sitting with, thinking about how they might resonate in your own life, your own relationships.
Absolutely. They offer a different lens to look through.
So here's something to leave you with. Think about the dances you're caught up in each day. Are you always straining towards some future peak, some final goal, or are you finding meaning, maybe even joy, in the steps you're taking right now?
A great question to ponder. And as always, if you have other materials or topics you'd like us to dive into, please send them our way.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.